Hello everyone, I'm Julien Levroir, I'm the CISO of OVH Cloud, and I'm really happy today to be with Jean-Baptiste Voron from Atos and Eric Vetillard from ENISA. Today we will talk about the European certification scheme for cloud providers and some other topic, and explain what are the main problematic and main stakes on this topic. So, Jean-Baptiste, maybe you can start by introducing yourself, explaining who you are and what you do at Atos.
Of course, thank you, Julien, and thank you for the invitation. I'm really glad to be here. So I'm Jean-Baptiste Voron. I'm the CTO Cybersecurity for Atos in France. And I'm responsible for the portfolio in cybersecurity for the French perimeter, for the French territory. This portfolio is directly inherited from the global portfolio from Atos, but I adapt this portfolio to the French constraints and especially to the French regulation. So we have the transformation of this global portfolio into typically French services that are meeting all the French constraints. This is my job.
Okay, thank you very much. Eric, you can explain us maybe in few words what is ENISA and what you do at there?
Yes, Julien, yes. So ENISA is the European Union Agency for Cybersecurity. It has been around for almost 20 years, and it provides technical input to policymakers when we have new regulations that is drafted around cybersecurity in Europe. It also publishes many reports on security-related topics, and I invite you to actually take a look at these reports. Also organizes some events around awareness, some competitions, like there's been quite a number last month in October, and many more things related to cybersecurity. So since 2019, ENISA has become a permanent agency, and now we have some new missions, one of them being to develop cybersecurity certification schemes at the European level. That's when I joined ENISA, and since then I've been working on the certification of cloud services. So this is actually one of three schemes that we're working on right now, one of them being the common criteria, which is more oriented for products, and more recently we got a request for a scheme on 5G.
Okay, thank you, Eric. Just maybe a quick introduction about the topic. At OVH Cloud, we are working a lot on certification, qualification, attestation. Basically, we are a global provider, and we have several types of customer, any type of customer, and each customer has his own requirement and his own risk to cover, and each one of them is sensitive to a certification scheme or trust scheme on its own. We have global schemes like ISO 27001 that are mostly used all over the world, but there is also American scheme like SOC 1 and 2 that are widely used in North America, and also European scheme, especially the one in France that is sponsored by ANSSI, l'Agence nationale de sécurité des systèmes d'information, which is called SecNum Cloud, and OVH managed to reach that level of attestation few months ago. But we are also working on other European countries like Germany with the C5 framework, like Italy with AGIT framework, like Spain with ENS framework, and basically most of these schemes are pretty similar in terms of forms, are covering similar topics, similar security control, but they are all different in terms of content, in terms of structure, in terms of certification scheme. So it's a lot of work for us to ensure that we are compliant with all this framework and manage all this audit for an added value that is quite limited. Jean-Baptiste, do you see this topic and this problematic with your customer, the cloud user that you are working with?
Yes, this is typically the problem we are facing with when we are talking to our customers. This is exactly the problem where our customers explain us that they have business needs and they don't understand how the certification, how the regulations are helping them in order to meet the business needs. So we are here at Atos to fill the gap, of course, with our partners such as OVH, to fill the gap between what is brought on the table by the regulation and what is expected by the customer. So, of course, we are working with them in terms of awareness to explain them the interest of such a regulation. Also, all the roadmaps with the European regulation that is coming. So, awareness. The second thing is also to help them in order to build the risk analysis. When they are moving to the cloud, we are helping our customer to move to the cloud. So basically, they are facing with new risks. So we are here also to explain them that the regulation is not reducing all the risks, and they need to add on top of the different measures, security measures that are existing, to add on top some specific security measure in order to have the right level of risk. So awareness, risk analysis, and also to help them to build real and concrete architectures that use all the power of the cloud, but also to be fully compliant with all the regulations regarding confidentiality of data, and also relation between the French territory, the European territory, and some other territories regarding the laws, etc. So basically, awareness, risk analysis, and architecture. This is exactly where our customer needs our inputs in order to move smoothly and with a limited amount of risk to the cloud.
Okay, so basically, your customer and our customer and we have the same
exactly the same problem.
Problem. Okay, thank you. And so Eric, can you maybe explain us what you are doing specifically to solve this problem at European level? What is your roadmap? What are you working on?
Okay, so the idea at the European level is to define some cybersecurity certification scheme that would replace the national schemes to assess the security of products, of services, and even of processes. So in that case, of course, we're focusing on the cloud services. So here we should, I think, within maybe I think 2 years, if you need to count the fact that everybody needs to get ready, get accredited, etc., have the ability to conduct some certifications at the European level rather than doing them multiple times at the national level. So also the EUCS is quite generic. It applies to any kind of cloud services, from infrastructure to applications. It's independent, of course, also of the deployment model. So really the idea here is that we try to build something simple. So we have a baseline of requirements. So they are applicable to all services. And the idea is that, of course, it's the risk profile of a service that will make the requirements more or less easy or difficult to reach. And then we have some methodology that is also the same for all services. And that we've tried to make, say, compatible with the most significant ones like ISO 27001 or the SOC 2 family, so that it allows maybe a vendor like OVH or OVH customers to, instead of adding a completely new audit, to maybe add a few elements to an existing audit in order to optimize the certification strategy here. So we have 3 levels. So that we have one of them being the substantial level that is supposed to be the mainstream level, and it's quite similar, I would say, to the German C5 for those who know. Then there's an entry level, actually the basic level intended really for cloud providers who are not used to certification and wants to make a first step in that direction. And finally, there's a high level, which is intended mostly for high security use cases. And this one draws some things from the French Secnum Cloud with, say, a few extra things. So I think here we introduce also some flexibility by having these levels, that could be useful for your customers as well.
And Enisa is working with private sector and cloud provider to define those standards. How do you work on a regular basis?
So the candidate schemes are written by Enisa, but we get a lot of help. There's some support from an ad hoc working group made of representatives from the industry and also from the member states. So this is actually very much a group work. There's been already, the end of last year, a first external review of the scheme. And now we're finalizing it, and there will be another public review when we will have what they call the implementing act. This is the formal version in the scheme that should be sometime next year. Yeah.
Okay. And aligning 27 countries, it's not too complicated?
So yes, it is. Of course, complicated. The countries have different priorities. So in some cases, we need to find the right compromise so that we can satisfy everybody, or at least leave nobody completely dissatisfied. Yeah.
Jean-Baptiste, does what Eric says echo to the problematics that you described? Do you think your customer, your clients, will be sensitive to this kind of approach?
Yeah, for sure. The market almost in France is waiting for this kind of approach. We have several things very interesting here. The first one is that we have the ability to go step by step to reach the right level of compliance. And I think this very basic level of regulation of compliance is very interesting, and it will help some of our customers to engage the move to being compliant to something, and moreover to be compliant with something European. So this is very interesting. The other thing is that this approach is very transparent and it's very clear, and it will also help us in order to explain to our customer what is inside and what is not inside, and to have and to be able, since all the things are clear, to be able to build the right solution, the right architecture. The last thing is, I guess, one thing is interesting is also to be able to answer our customer to the question, if I am using the regulation SecNumCloud or the new regulation, will the new solution be compliant or be SecNumCloud compliant? So the idea is also to provide a way, to provide a roadmap, and to be able to provide some space to our customer to build something fully compliant to the regulation. So I think it's really answering a concrete question on the market right now.
Okay, great. So maybe a last question for you, Eric, but maybe it could be commented after by Jean-Baptiste. Do you plan to develop this scheme to take into account some specific requirement, like linked to a specific sector like finance or healthcare, or some specific needs for public administration in some countries with a strong needs in terms of sovereignty, for instance? Is it something that you are working on?
So the scheme itself is a horizontal scheme, so we're not looking at the verticals. What we have been working on is defining a way to define what we call extension profiles, which could be used for verticals. I think the example that I usually take is the AI regulation that is currently some kind of a draft that is being discussed. This AI regulation makes a reference to certification, saying if you get a certificate that covers the AI needs, then you're considered to be okay. But of course, by default, we don't cover that. So it means that we'll need to have an extension to cover this, and then people will have to be able to be covered. And we can apply that to a number of things, verticals or national aspects, etc. Yeah.
This idea to have the flexibility in the scheme is really interesting, but we have to remember that the security basics needs to be achieved first. And so let's focus on what is really the basic, the common framework of cybersecurity. And then this extension mechanism is really interesting because it will help us to go further. But really, the first one is to have the common framework all over the Europe to achieve a security needs.
Clearly, and that's a really good conclusion. Really good conclusion. As a global code provider, we are really happy that such initiatives are coming to life at European level, and of course we will support it extremely, and we will implement the compliance with the UCS, of course, the future framework. But we will need work from partners like Atos to ensure that our customer will be able to implement some specific risk mitigation on top of our service, and it's really important that we build together with our partner an ecosystem that allows customers to have strong foundation in terms of cybersecurity and the capability to manage their own specific risk. So thank you very much for this exchange. I really enjoy it with you guys, and I thank you everyone for participating with us, and have a nice end of OVH experience.
Thank you.